It's going.
Yes.
Da-da-da-da. 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 Jules can't watch a spooky movie. She likes some kind of lovey. Twilight was written badly, so instead we did Addams Family. Da-da-da-da. 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 Da-da-da-da.
Love. That was so good.
Thank you. Was it better than my improv? I'll just make this up right now on the spot for A Knight's Tale.
So good.
I had a line at the end that actually, and then I changed it right at the end. So we did Addams Family, but like, whatever. Hi, everyone. It's still Comfy Tuesday. My name is Natalie Katona. You're on my YouTube channel for To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. Your weekly look at, I almost just said everyday misogyny. Your weekly look at everyday misogyny. And this is my co-host.
Hi, friends. I'm Julia Washington, the host of Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, where we analyze pop culture through the lens of race or gender, and sometimes both.
And this was almost not meant to be because all of the tech things were
so mad. They're so mad. The tech gods are angry today.
So if we seem frazzled, it's because we didn't get to just sit in the green room for 15 minutes chatting.
Yeah.
And Penelope has already parkoured off of the desk.
Hardcore parkour.
All right. Well, today we are covering, if you couldn't tell by my fantastic musical renditions, we are covering The Addams Family. And when I say The Addams Family, I mean the good one, the 1991 version.
Yeah.
But okay, but this is a question. Did you ever watch the original black and white TV version?
Every now and again at my grandparents' house, because whatever channel did the reruns for it, and we didn't have cable growing up, so I did see it in the summers on. I mean, obviously by the time we were kids, it was in reruns anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was a big Nick at Night kid, so I've seen it and I've seen the Munsters.
Yeah, the Munsters. Mm-hmm.
The Munsters.
I feel like the Addams Family, though, was more taboo in my house because, if you'll recall, I was raised in a conservative Christian home.
Jules couldn't go to camp or learn about space.
And or you know, spooky things.
Yeah. And I think the Munsters were like the watered down version of the Addams Family.
And that's probably why it wasn't as like no kind of situation. Because I don't remember because the 1991 version was definitely like a no-go.
Oh, a no-go? A no-go?
It was a no-go.
We have one viewer, so this is a great time for me to pause and actually remind you that we have a live comment feed that if you are here, we can't see you unless you put something in the comment feed. Jules did a very Vanna demonstration. So make sure to go follow the Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous YouTube channel since we share this show. And if you are watching the replay, go ahead and comment your thoughts there too. This is truly like the only place except for Patreon that you can just have free access to like in the moment stream of consciousness comment on our stuff.
Yeah. Truly. But what my statement of like Addams Family was definitely a no-go. As I was watching it in the opening scene when we first get eyes on Angelica Houston, my first thought was, damn, ma'am, you are stunning.
Always stunning.
Always
stunning. We were a huge Addams Family house. Like we watched all of the movies. Like I haven't seen any of the recent ones, but I watched Wednesday and then didn't like it. But
is that because you're a purist? Like a 90s purist?
No, it's not because I'm a purist. It's just that I truly feel that Wednesday takes out the entire heart that is the Addams Family franchise. Like it was Addams Family for a reason.
Sure, yeah.
They're a ensemble. and they work
Yeah.
best as an ensemble. Now, I did
Mm.
try to turn on the cartoon because I was very curious if when they did, that newfound, like, claymation animation that they did in the more recent videos, if
Mhm.
they're as sexy. Like, if
Yeah,
Gomez and Morticia are all over one
they're
another.
so horny for each
They're
other.
so horny.
Like, okay, I was like, this is such a beautiful example of when a couple is in love
Mhm.
and like genuinely wants to be together, which we don't often have, especially when you think about the 90s.
Correct, and here's the thing about the Addams Family that always gets me tickled, and by the way, just because, like, Addams Family and the Adam so I thought the original Addams Family was Addams Family, Values, and I just think it's because Joan Cusack is in it, and therefore
Mm.
it made it a bigger movie on my radar. Um, but the 1991 Addams Family is the reboot that they did for us millennials,
Mhm.
and it stars Angelica Houston, a very young but a very talented Christina Ricci.
So she was so good.
Ah, I stand. And
Like,
Christopher Lloyd as Uncle Fester.
mhm.
Um, and this is the one where Uncle Fester has been missing for decades. And
Yes.
then an imposter comes to take the Adams fortune,
Mhm.
and shenanigans ensue. And then, spoiler alert, at the end, it does actually end up being Uncle Fester because there's only one man who looks like that.
Mm. Yeah.
I think so. The thing that always tickles me about the Adams Family is that it's it's meant to be like, oh, they're scary and they're outsiders or whatever, and they're like weirdos. But it's like we've made that up in our minds, and, like,
Mhm.
the story never plays that out because I was like, "Why is it that everyone's real convinced that the Addams Family is a real alternative lifestyle when they're literally the happiest people I know?"
They're the happiest people. They are so rooted in family and being and like so focused on family and honoring those who like lived before them and just again a demonstration of like the parents actually wanting to be together and loving each other and not sniping at each other and just really showing us like hey this is kind of what the kind of love that you should probably look for.
Well, and I love all of the joke structures in the Addams Family because none of the jokes are at the expense of anyone else in the family. Like, it's not
Right.
like Gomez is always digging in at Morticia,
Mhm.
and Pugsley is a real consensual participant in whatever weird shit Wednesday has decided that they will do, and
Mhm.
they're, like, real siblings. That's why I turned off the cartoon, because the first person who spoke was Pugsley, and he sounded too intelligent, and I was like, "That's not my Pugsley," and then I turned it off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because Pugsley in this movie doesn't really have a lot to say.
Well,
It's
and I remember that in the show, like, that is Pugsley's vibe.
yeah, he's more of a quiet character, which makes sense too when you think of or not it like not it makes sense, but like when they go to the Halloween party and he dresses like Uncle Fester, it's like one of those it's like out of admiration because they're different, but they're you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he admires Fester for who he is versus like not. That was a dumb point, but you get it.
Yeah, it's like, well,
We
we all
didn't get
have
to
that
do our get ready for the show
we did it.
vamping, so we're a little today.
We, but we all have that uncle or that aunt who is our favorite uncle or
Mhm.
aunt. I also enjoy that wins. So one of the really big things that I enjoy about the Addams Family is it's not even that like no one's outwardly mean to you, but like everyone is respected and heard in that
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
So when Wednesday is the first person who starts catching on that Uncle Fester isn't Uncle Fester, or
Mhm.
there's more to the story or whatever, no one is like outwardly telling her, like, you're insane. You're
Right.
crazy. We've accepted this to be true. Why can't you? Like, oh, that Wednesday. And when they go to the school for the little performance,
Mhm.
and the teacher is expressing to Morticia like, "Oh, we did some projects over on our heroes."
Yes.
And Wednesday did her great aunt who was burned at the stake for a witch or whatever. There's never any like at no point are the Addams family in on the fact that that's actually weird to like basic white people.
Mhm, mhm.
So Morticia's like, "Oh, yes, that is one of our favorite family stories." And so naturally, the only connection I can make is that the Addams family are just a gothic version of my Croatian family.
I believe it based on some of the stories you told me. I did write down Hall of Heroes because on my notes because I think that is one of the greatest scenes of the film because it also highlights just how much they value the family lore
Mhm.
versus placing admiration because I think in the Hall of Heroes you had George Bush and Barbara Bush and like all of these other faces that you look at them and you're like
Kids don't know anything about George Bush.
and also scratch your head like
Yeah,
why, and then here comes this little girl who's like I love my family history so much that I respect it enough to share with you
yeah.
and like fully understands it versus again like you said I couldn't in 1991 I couldn't have told you what the fuck George Bush was doing.
No. So, like, just, like, literally picking the president because you know that someone has to be president of this
That
country
or like your parents are like, you know who we should admire
is George W.
is George HW
H.W.
because it's 91. But still, that was a great scene to me. And then the other thing that I wrote down was I love how everyone assumes that the Addams family is a bunch of dummies
Oh,
when
yeah.
really that's just their prejudice. Like they're not. Like the Addams family just doesn't see the world the way that everyone else does, which is so freeing. But it's like because of that, everyone just assumes they're stupid.
Oh my gosh, I just got chills because now we can connect it to the other thing that we've been obsessed about this week, which is Britney Spears. Like,
Yes.
everyone is just assuming that Britney is in crisis, and I'm not saying that she's out of crisis.
Right.
But we're not taking into context that, there's mental illness, there's medical abuse, there's a
Mhm.
lot of distrust for society due to things that she's had to live through. And with
Mhm.
the Addams family, they're just so comfortable in themselves, much like a naked Britney Spears twirling with knives.
Mhm.
Um, they're just so comfortable with themselves that at no point just it's not that they don't pick up that you're questioning their culture or their family structure or their lore. They're just not questioning it with you. Like, it's not
Right.
making them falter on who they are as
Right.
people.
Exactly. Exactly. And even when, like you said, even like we sense early on that Morticia isn't quite sold on this being the true Fester, but she's still loving her husband. She's still supporting him through it, but she's also proceeding with caution to still protect her family
Mhm.
until they know for sure. And I thought it was done so beautifully because it wasn't uh I told you so, or I was concerned, or like this naggingness that usually comes
You
when
brought this
people
guy into our house. You didn't even
yeah.
ask questions.
Yeah, it really highlights just how solid their relationship is because she's like, my husband has to work through this. I'm going to support him, even though I have doubts. And then when it all does kind of start to fall apart, she's like, all right, let's solve this problem. And it's not like, oh, my stupid husband. Oh, I have to fix this. Oh, why didn't you listen to me? It's very much like an understanding of their partnership and the partner.
Mhm.
I feel
Yeah.
like I'm saying the same shit over and over and over again.
No, because I mean, honestly, I stopped taking notes on the movie because I was like, I have no notes on this family.
Truly,
Would move into this family's home tomorrow.
I mean, I would get freaked out because we
You
know I
would.
don't like intense and scary things, but the whole like another note I wrote, so it's I have like no credit like you have no criticisms of the movie. Another note I wrote was this is just a movie of finding belonging in an unexpected way. Like,
Yeah, because
and
now
everyone
I
feels
forget
good about it at the end.
what so what was Fester's amnesia name. Was it Harold? What was his name?
Gerald, Jerry,
Gerald.
George. It was a it
George.
was
Yeah.
it was a
So
yeah.
when Fester doesn't realize that he's Fester, he has this really toxic mom figure, which is probably
Mhm.
something that we can go into. He has this very toxic mom figure who has basically made it impossible for him to not feel like an outsider. Like
Mhm.
she revels in his violent tendencies because it helps her get her way, but then she's also only allowing him to socialize with her
Right.
so she can keep in control of him. And then through this con, he does, I mean, honestly, what I do as a person who's been used and abused just goes, oh my gosh, are these people okay? I will become their uncle. Like, and he becomes very endeared to the
Yes.
kids and the
Yes.
lore and grandma and Lurch. And it's when he's so upset because his mean mommy isn't going to let him go to the kids' play, and he goes,
Yeah.
"But I've been helping them with
Yeah.
it." And she's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, it's all part of the bit," but you can very much tell it's not part of the bit.
Yeah. And it's almost, and it's like you watch him start to realize that he fits there. Like it makes sense that he's there. Even though he doesn't believe that he's a part of the family, he's not really Uncle Fester. There's something about that family that makes him feel valuable and whole. And that's the other thing that I really loved about it too, is that Fester doesn't find romantic love to make him whole. Fester just finds his community to make him whole.
Yes, and it all comes to head in a beautiful choreographed moment, which we know I love, with the mamushka. And
Yes.
I remember being a kid, and that used to be my favorite scene, and I would dance the mamushka.
Oh, that's adorable.
Mamushka,
Yeah,
mamushka.
yeah, I love that.
Because, as you know, my family likes to polka. To me,
Mhm.
it was the same thing.
Yeah. I love it.
And like, there are so many again, honestly, my family is gonna be so pissed when I text them all and be like, "I know that we thought that my Big Fat Greek wedding was the truest representation of our family we've ever seen, but have you guys revisited the
The
Addams
Addams Family.
family in a moment? Have you
Can't
guys
wait.
looked into Addams Family 1991?
Can't wait for that
Uh,
response.
and because they have that big family party because they're so excited that, Fester has been found, so of course
Yeah.
they're going to share it with all of their family,
Yep.
and I have, a family lore story like that where, one of my mom's cousins was being picked up, from the airport after being in Vietnam for the war,
Mhm.
and there were these other guys sitting with him at the airport that were either on connecting flights or still waiting for a ride home or whatever. And my great uncles went, "We'll just get in our car." And my mom was like, "I thought that like there was a parade because everyone in their neighborhood came out into the yard
Oh,
and people were honking and there was a big barbecue." She goes, "I literally like you couldn't convince me it wasn't the 4th of July."
I love
And it
that.
was all because my cousin was coming home, and then, like, my family immediately looked at these guys, and they're like, "Are people picking you up? Do you have a couple of hours? Come join our family, like, be a parade, like, come eat with us. You
Yeah.
boys got to come home." I can't talk about it anymore, I'm gonna cry,
Okay.
but,
It's
um,
beautiful. It's beautiful.
but I think one of the things about the Addams family that is so beautiful is that you can view them as like a big ethnic family. And there's
Mhm.
just something about those big, like when Wednesday's dancing with her cousin, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I've been Wednesday dancing with my cousin,
Yeah.
a cousin who's severely older than me, possibly my mom's cousin. But the slow dance happened and we didn't have dates. So it's like, I guess we're gonna dance with each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And nothing's weird about it. Like,
Right.
it's not creepy, it's not weird, like, there there are a lot of family structures where a lot of times affection is withheld,
Yes.
especially from male family members, because it is viewed as like creepy or gross or weird.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the Addams family, they're just so loud
Mhm.
and messy about their feelings and their emotions, where I'm like, "Oh, this feels like home, like a gothic home."
Yeah, and that leads me into my another point I wrote down, which was I love how even though it's the Addams family, and Morticia makes a comment about like, oh, that's Gomez's parents. It's a shame they didn't get to meet the children. They still have her mother living with them.
Mhm.
And it's a non-issue. She's just a regular part of the family. There is no tension between Gomez and her Morticia's mother. Grandmother is there. Grandmother exists in the family structure. Grandmother is not a problem, which
Yeah.
is another dynamic we don't get to see a lot of. It's a lot of representation of like, you really should probably hate your mother-in-law because your mother-in-law is the worst.
Well, and then there's this lawyer and his wife who are also just enveloped into the family because the Addams just trust that they are being genuine about their
Right.
like positive feelings about the family, which I do think that the wife character is kind of enamored with them.
Well, and as you see by the end of it, she becomes part of the family,
Yeah, she marries cousin It, the
which is
hottest of the Addams family.
I fucking loved that when they were like falling in love at the party and like all these things. And then, they show up together. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot that this happened. And it makes me so happy because it's like I don't know if this is true for you, but all of us who are not white have had the one friend who's come to a family thing and who's just been like the uptight, like, I don't know what to do, everybody's noisy
Yeah,
face. And that's her. And then like you said, she becomes endeared with them and then eventually assimilates, which is so wonderful because it's like you can still be like withdrawn and quiet but still also be loved and a part
yeah.
of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
my best friend still retells me stories of my own high school graduation party of things that she just observed from my family. She's like, "And then do you remember when this happened?" And it's like, "Yes, I do."
Yes, I
But
do.
then, um, probably not the last time that I was staying at my aunt's house, but the time before, it was probably for the baby shower. My aunt asked me how my best friend was doing and how her kids were doing, and so, like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm convinced that it's weird because I think I've been made to feel like my family is weird. It might be the
Mm.
way that I tell the stories. It might
The
be the
way
way that
one tells a story and describes things makes a difference.
yeah, it might be the way that I'm like, "But has your family ever gone through this?"
Yeah.
But I think one of the reasons why I did a little bit of an overshare last night in one of our group chats with my family stories is because the Addams family, like, made me nostalgic for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that probably means that Peg's gonna come and haunt me. I
It is
was thinking
October.
it is October. It doesn't have to be October for
I know.
Peg to visit,
I was
but
just I was just trying to play.
I know. But, okay, speaking about Gomez and Morticia being so fucking hot for each other, I'm like, "See, this is what happens when you say that the Addams family is weird. Then we all become sexually repressed." And
Mhm.
it's like and then we just accept marriages where we're not hot for one another.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that really stresses me out because as a unpartnered adult woman and people who are always trying to figure out how to get me partnered, I don't know how to explain to them that I want to be in a relationship with someone I like desire
And like.
physically, emotionally, intellectually because yeah, the foundation needs to be friendship. I need to have a fondness. I'd like to like them. I don't want to be partnered as a safety net because society is structured for women to only be protected if they're partnered, but then that partner is terrible to them.
Correct. Like, there are so many times when either I'm watching The Addams Family or The Addams Family comes up or whatever, and I'm just like, if it's not Morticia and Gomez, I do not want it. I do not want it. He's and it's not in a lecherous way that he's just so they're just so into each other.
Right.
They can't hear they can't hear like triangle without being like, "Do you remember when we did the Alaskan Triangle that midnight?" They're like, and then they're all swept up in it again. And I was like, "Yeah, those two fuck."
Yeah, I was like, I'm surprised they don't have more children because I really feel like it's all the time over there, which
Yeah,
good for you. Get it, you
which
know?
it does end. So the movie does end with Morticia announcing that there will be a third
Yeah.
Addams baby,
Yeah.
which I don't think Wednesday covers. See, again, I don't like that Wednesday show. It took out all the heart.
Can I tell you a couple of things that I noted that I really did kind of enjoy
Yeah.
watching in adulthood? Okay, so they're at the talent show. The location where they're doing the talent show is the Gilmore Girls Hall. That location is used so many times in Gilmore Girls that like I can't not see Gilmore Girls when I see that location.
Oh, I love that.
And this is like 9 years before Gilmore Girls, so that's fun. And then I love when Morticia is trying to find work and the gal's like, "Oh, what's your degree in?" And she's like, "Hexes and spells." And the woman's like, "So liberal arts." And then just
Liberal
starts.
arts. By the way, I have learned that in England or something, there is a university, I think it's an English university across the seas that now is offering like witchcraft as a major. And I was like, let me pack my bags. Penelope, we're
Yeah.
moving.
I don't see why not. There's so much to it that I am truly impressed when people have like a deep knowledge and understanding. Like that's a lot of dedication. It's no different than someone studying like chemistry or math or
Yeah.
history.
Well, and I think that's what like always tickles me about the Wednesday picking her ancestor who was burned at the stake because
Mhm.
because then Morticia goes into it and
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh yes, she was burned at the stake. I believe it was because she used to dance naked at night." And like it is like that was a lot of what was going on during the Salem witch trial where women were being persecuted for showing sexuality or
Or
nudity.
or knowledge of something, right?
Yeah.
Like I know how to make this thing out of berries that will help heal you. You don't need an exorcism.
And then she goes, "But don't worry, we've told Wednesday college first, but, like, also if you wanna be burned at the stake as a martyr, okay."
Yeah, I mean, live your life happy, girl. The other thing that I was like, "Oh, I fucking love this," was when she's clipping the roses off and just leaving the stems
Uh-huh.
versus in like she's throwing them on the ground. Like that has no value here. We just want the brown,
The aesthetic.
the aesthetic. I was like, "Oh, I love this woman."
No. Literally, like, the thing of fantasies, Morticia
Yeah.
Addams.
And I
Uh,
love that he called her Tish.
I
Like
know.
that was so endearing in a way where it's like I love that you her name is Morticia, but you shorten it and I don't know, it just was they're just so enchanting. I just love them.
Well, and there's so much about Morticia and Gomez that is, barrier breaking. Um,
Mhm.
Gomez is a short king.
Yeah.
Um, I would classify them as a biracial couple because of Gomez and then Morticia is a very white lady.
Mhm. Yeah, and I wish I had looked up who played the original cast, but the guy who plays Gomez, his last name is Julia.
Yes. And do you know that he
I
died
forgot
when he
his
was 54, the 1991 Gomez? Because I was like, where is this
Oh my
guy?
gosh, he was so
Yeah.
handsome. I didn't look. I didn't get that far when I was doing my Addams family Googling.
But so yeah, the Gomez in the movie that we watched, I mean,
Raul Julia. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
he died when he was 54. I
Oh,
was like, oh
so
my
sad.
gosh.
Oh, like 3 years after doing this movie.
Yeah, so now I don't even know if
Wow.
it's him in Family Values.
Well, Family Values was in 93, and yes, it is him.
Okay, I thought it was. Um, because Angelica Houston, I see for the rest of my childhood, forever and
Yeah.
for always.
Yeah.
Um, oh my gosh, this isn't Angelica Houston, but now I feel like we have to watch the Glenn Close 101 Dalmatians
How did I know you were gonna say that?
because no one is a better Cruella than Glenn Close, and you cannot tell me I'm wrong.
I won't tell you you're wrong, but I will tell you that Cruella is a movie that imprinted me in a way that I was not expecting.
Oh, the reboot with Emma Stone?
Uh-huh.
Have not watched it.
Oh, so good.
Okay, well, I'll watch it because now I have access back to my Disney Plus.
And I think I'm going to preface it because you know that when Carly and I are together, all we do is talk about how we used to be so punk rock. The soundtrack in that movie is like it. It was like, oh my god, I had all of these albums. Like, oh my god, like it just was this. So the music really does help me sell it.
Mhm.
So if just know that nostalgia factor is there for me.
Also, about Wednesday and Pugsley, they are the most polite, well-behaved children I've ever seen. Are they often throwing knives at one another? Yes.
Yes. Was their talent show performance a little too bloody for me? Yes.
Yes. But polite, you know that
Mhm.
they don't act up in class. And, Wednesday says some shit. She says some shit. Like when that Girl Scout is like, "Are you sure it's made from real lemons?" And they're like, "Yeah, I only drink things that are organic with real fruit." And they're like, "Okay." And she's like, "I'll buy some lemonade if you buy my cookies." And Wednesday goes, "Are they made out of real Girl Scouts?"
So good.
It's so
So good.
it's so funny. And that girl is terrified. And I'm like, here's the thing. I don't think Wednesday's spooky at all. I think she's just funny.
Yeah, she's deadpan. Yeah.
Um, and I think that's what I miss out of the by the way, Jenna Ortega does a great job in that show. It's not
Okay.
that she's a piss poor Wednesday. I don't like the structure of the show. I do not
Okay.
like that in order to focus on Wednesday, they removed her from the family.
Mm.
Um, and but I don't think that Wednesday captures how funny Wednesday is. I think that
Mm.
they leaned really hard on, well, she's spooky and now she's at spooky school.
See,
And
and
I'm
I feel like how do you have Wednesday if she's not funny?
right. Also, I will say that the Addams family are comedians before they are spooky.
100%. Absolutely. And I think that's part of why I could hang through the movie because the comedy of it all.
Oh my god, it's so funny. And the and part of the funny is that they just like fully accept that this is who their family is, but also that's
Mhm.
part of the comedy in my family is that there's just blatant acceptance, like, oh, yep, that happened. So
Yeah.
like when a dungeon monster just like burps up fire from the basement, and they're like, ah, Patsy, she's acting up again. And like, when they're walking through the cemetery and they're
Mhm.
going over how each family member has died some horrific death, I was like, "This is also kind of beautiful." Because you and I now have grown up in an age where people stop telling you why people have died, and you
Mhm.
and I are always like, "Why won't anyone just tell us how people died? So
That's
I could
literally all
know."
I need. That's all I need because the funeral's great. It helps with closure. But if I don't know how they died, then I'm never leaving the house because I'm assuming they died because they left the house.
Right, like and
Cater
yeah.
to my mental illness.
Well, but, like, I
Well,
think
not
that's
even
part
just
of
the
it.
mental illness, but the emotions, like help with the grief process. It really does help with the grief
Yes,
process when we know how people have passed.
yes. Like, and you and I have talked before about how, like, they used to put the cause of death in obituaries,
Mhm.
and now they've stopped.
Yeah. My son knows. He knows. You put my cause of death in there.
You put my cause of death. It's the headline.
And if it was something comedic, talk about it at the party.
Yeah. Overran by lions at the zoo.
Roar could happen.
It could. We watched Jurassic Park, and we're like, "We're not safe at zoos."
Mm-mm. No, watch me never go to a zoo again.
I have the hiccups.
It's okay.
It's because
Um,
I crammed at dinner right before we did this. Um,
oh,
but,
go ahead.
yeah, I think, like, when you misinterpret the actual intent behind something. I think
Mhm.
that's what Wednesday did. I think Wednesday misinterpreted the original intent to the Addams family, which is like the
Mm.
reason why they have that dumbass theme song is because they're comedians. They're spooky and they're kooky.
Right. Did you guys ever do like the spoof of it?
The days of the week. That's how I used to teach days of the week in kindergarten.
There's one that starts like Uncle Fester farted.
No, I don't think I did that one.
Well, I can't say the next line because it's not okay. But I was thinking about it today when I was like sort of just reviewing everything from yesterday when I was watching the movie and making notes, and I was like, that little anecdotal song that we used to sing about the Addams family is not okay now. And I
I,
can't believe adults let us sing that on the playground. Remember, I went to a private religious school.
they were just happy that you were making fun of the Addams family. Um, but yeah, I think that's another play. I didn't know that this was going to turn into my notes on the Wednesday show where I'm like, you misinterpreted the intent behind the Addams family, which is the Addams family. Because also like Wednesday and Morticia are having mother-daughter strife, which I understand is a natural part of things, but I was like, also not the point of the Addams
In
family.
the Wednesday show, they're having mother-daughter strife?
Yeah.
Oh, that feels out of character.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was like, not the point of the Addams family. The point of the Addams family. So I really think the point of the Addams family is that they have to be a team in a community
Mhm.
because they're so different from the outside world.
Right.
So you really cannot lean on the outside world to be your community.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it. Was that
Yeah.
not how I was supposed to interpret it?
No, I
Because
believe that's
there
what it
is
is.
because I think the reason why and you touched on this earlier with, your Croatian family being more Adam's family than my big fat Greek wedding. But what all of those things are teaching us who don't fit into the major dominant culture that is currently crying that they're, being attacked is that you do have to turn in to your family to
Yeah.
survive the major dominant culture because your family's going to be who gets you, who understands you. It's their fucking fault we're weird. But at the same time, like they're the ones who are going to be a comfort and feel like it doesn't matter how much I'm in disagreement with a parent or another family member. If something weird happens in the world and I go to a family function, it's almost like it's a reset, a
Yeah.
reminder that it's like, well, at least here I fit in, even if that person has something to say negative about me, even if I'm currently in a weird place with one of my parents, it doesn't matter. There's something about that bond. So like it's a balm
It's
to
a
the rest.
balm.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear the way that I talk when I go back to visit everybody, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
planned or not. And I do.
Mm-hmm.
I just tell you, I'm like, oh, my mom's cousin just told me that she loves when I'm in town because it's just like, because I'm so lovely to spend time with. Isn't that nice to hear? I never
Yeah.
hear that.
And that's that's the greatest thing. Like my cousin and I had a moment in July where it was just like, we do these things because we care about you and Jack and your son. And I was just like, that felt so good to hear. And
Ugh,
also I love that's because also same, like I was the auntie slash old cousin who's like telling all of the new babies, come to California. I will take care of you.
I will take care of you.
I have room. Come to California. What do you need? What can I do for you? Like, and then the child that we were celebrating, everyone made sure, do you feel celebrated this weekend? Are you feeling loved? Okay. Cause it's like it's like
Yeah,
that.
there's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people and there's like, it's not that we want to reassure that she's being loved, but it's just that moment of like all of our efforts. Let's if you're not feeling loved, then where's the miss, right? Like, and that's more of a mental health check.
Well, and I think that's what's beautiful about giant families too, is if someone drops the ball and says
Mhm.
something fucking ignorant, then there's an auntie or a cousin or an uncle or a grandparent who's like, "Oh, yeah, no, that was a rough one. Come over here
Yeah.
and I have enough patience to deal with you."
Yeah. And that's
because it spreads out.
yes, and the chances of you having another family member who you are more like than other family members are
Mhm.
high. So then you have that moment of like I have an affection for little sisters because
Yeah.
they're always treated like shit sometimes. Well, not in every family dynamic, but in my experience, the little sisters that I sort of feel protective for, it's because they do have big personalities and people don't always like it. So I'm always
Mhm.
the one who's like, here, let me explain to you why that person is being shitty to you because I've processed it through therapy to understand.
Well, and
And let me help you guide you. Let me help guide you so you don't also do dumb shit like I did to get over it before you
well,
discovered therapy.
and as you know, because you get the text in real time, I'm
Yeah.
still learning that there are so many cousins that just through statistics and distance, I don't get to talk to as much. But
Yeah.
then when I do talk to them, I'm like, Jules, it's like I've been best friends with my cousin for 20 years. We have all of the same fucking hobbies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And and there's something so great and healing about that. Like when you meet a family member and you're like, "Oh, I make sense.
Yeah, I
Thank
make
you.
sense. You
Thank you
know,
for that."
mutual friend Kelly and I were talking about it in regards to, like, artistry, when,
Mhm.
like, you've texted someone, you're like, "I'm into this new thing, like, junk journaling," and they're like, "Oh my god, I've been doing it for weeks too. Let's
Mhm.
exchange pages." Where
Yeah.
it just, like, makes you feel like you thought you were doing a solitary, like, activity, and then it turns out that, like, through distance and statistics and all of it, you were actually doing that with your friend, and now you have
Yeah.
a new thing to talk about.
Yeah. Which is also another great thing. And uh, I think that what my this conversation is can serve as a reminder that community is so important. And by isolating ourselves and a societal structure that forces us to not be in community is not healthy.
And and I know we've already touched on it with Wednesday, but, like, the refreshing thing about, like, Addams family and my family is, no matter what off the wall fucking shit you're gonna say about yourself, like, someone's gonna be like, "Oh, hell yeah." Like, they just believe you. Like, it's like, "I'm a tap dancer today," and they're like, "Oh, hell yeah." Like, I have been at a funeral, where there was a dress code and I couldn't adhere to the dress code, but I put on this specific scarf. And when one of my aunts or when one of my mom's cousins complimented it, I was like, I thought it was my most Croatian piece of clothing. And he just went, you know what? That's the most Croatian scarf I've ever seen. And just went, hell yeah. Like,
Yeah.
how often are you in a room and you just say something that's completely insane and off the wall
And it's
that you yourself
validated.
have come up with, and someone's like, "Oh, hell yeah."
Yes. I love that part. I love that part. I think that when you're in a situation where you have good people in your family, it's a very lucky situation. And I think that's what the Adams family shows us that you can build that and it's okay.
Well, and I think the Addams family also serves as a reminder, and honestly, this holds true because Morticia and Gomez still fuck, is that love isn't finite. Like,
Mhm.
even Morticia with the twins, like, she understands that that is one of Gomez's ex-girlfriends, but she also knows that these 2 women are important to Gomez and Fester because they grew up together and whatever. So she's like, "I'm
Right.
not closing myself off to this. Love isn't finite. If you
Yeah.
want to be a part of the community, you get to be a part of the community."
Versus what we normally see in pop culture and entertainment, which is competition. Oh, that's my husband's ex-girlfriend. I hate her kind of
Mhm.
crap, which is again doesn't serve any purpose other than being petty and shallow. Now, don't get me wrong. You know that we both like being
We
petty.
love
You know
being
that I
petty
love
and
being
shallow.
petty and shallow. But I think in this situation, the bigger picture is our community stronger for it if we're just acknowledging and respecting the roles that everyone plays in each other's lives. But also, there's a security there too, because
Yeah.
Morticia and Gomez are so secure in their relationship that, she can be accepting of these twins and still know that she's the one who's going to go home and not in like a, oh, well, I get to go home with him kind of way, but like in a, he chose me but
Mhm.
also, like, there's a nostalgia there. I think you
And
said that actually.
I think that's what ends up happening when your family is also your community and you make sure that that's a healthy community. You
Mhm.
do kind of just get to set aside some bullshit.
Yeah.
Because like Penelope may have snored in a very loud way. Like, okay. But yeah, you're just secure enough to where you're like, no, this is where I belong. No one's gonna not make me feel like I don't belong to today.
Mhm.
And I think so. Have you seen the musical The Addams Family?
You ask me these things like we get musicals here or they actually get advertised for so I can find out about them.
Knock it off. The only reason I saw it was because one of my former students and one of my friends' kids was doing it in their high school. Like, I've seen the high school
Oh,
production of the
okay.
Addams Family
That's
musical.
adorable though. Oh
Calm
my
down.
gosh, that's so cute though.
They did a fabulous job. They have a fabulous program, and I do like high school productions because some high schools have money, and
Yeah.
therefore you're paying $17 to see basically, like, kinda community theater level
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, we used to have a
Um,
high school in town like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, the story of the Addams Family musical revolves around Wednesday is gonna get married. Like, she has this
Mm.
boy that she's bringing home, and he's going to propose, and he is very much a normie boy. And then his family comes home with him to, like, meet the Addams or whatever, and I think what's so great about the Addams family and how they interact with the normies is it's never the Addams family that is like, "Oh, no, you're a normie, you can't dance the mamushka." It's
Mhm.
always like, "Oh, no, please sit down and have grandma's weird soup." Like,
Yeah.
and
I
then it's
love that.
the normies that put up all of the boundaries to be like, "This is weird, this is scary, this is creepy," because
Mhm.
they're uncomfortable, but the Adams are like, "Everyone gets to come to the table." And
Mhm.
I'm sure, like, I think there is, like, part of Gomez that's like, "How did Wednesday meet this boy?" Out of every boy that Wednesday could have met, he's, like, young, blonde Mr. America all the way. Like,
Yeah.
how? Like, almost semi-Republican. How could this have happened? Like,
Right?
um, but and I think that's normal too, but I think there's a lot to say about, like, just trusting that a community will be open if they tell you that they're open to you existing.
Yeah.
Because even within communities that, like, I know I deserve to take up space in, because of so many people always making me feel like I do not deserve the space that I take up, I'm always like, "No one likes me
Mhm.
here."
Oh, yeah. I know that feeling very, very well.
And, today I was talking about Mastermind, Taylor Swift's song, where she goes, "No one wanted to play with me as a little kid, so I've been scheming like a criminal ever since to make them love me and make it seem effortless." I'm like, "Oh god, I am Taylor Swift and she is me." Because how often do I tell you, Jules, I don't actually think I have friends. I think I tricked everyone into being my friend. Jules, I don't have friends. I just gaslit everyone because I'm smarter than everyone. I am what Taylor Swift would call a mastermind.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not here on my own free will.
Ever. No, I've just tricked everyone.
I
Everyone.
think but I also think too when you do kind of come from what okay, so let me start over. Let me dial it back. The thing that I also love is that even though the world does try to other them, it doesn't affect the kids
Yeah.
versus our experience in being othered and how because I was talking about this in book club on Sunday, like I don't understand mixed kids who have a white parent and grew up predominantly in a white community who walked out of it completely unscathed by the torment that happens about your racial identity. Like, how did that happen? I would
Mhm.
love to know because that's not my story. That's not any of my siblings' story. That's not anybody I know who's mixed story. So, like, write a book about it. Tell us how you were able to walk through that fire unscathed and
Please give
still
us
be
a how
very,
to.
yeah, because when you're othered and the world others you and you don't have a solid foundation, not that I'm saying my family wasn't a solid foundation. There's other variables involved too, but it is really hard sometimes and it can be really easy to allow that to break into you. And I think you and I experience that when spaces are closed off to us.
Mhm.
And then we turn to each other and we're like, no, you're fucking smart. No, you're fucking smart. Oh my
Or
God,
I
who wouldn't want to
gaslight
hang out with you?
everyone
Yeah.
into wanting to have coffee with me because I am a mastermind. No, seriously, like, as you know,
As
I
you
listen
know.
to Taylor Swift, and then I listen to Taylor Swift, but then there are moments where I hear Taylor Swift, and
Mhm.
it's very different, and I was at that damn Eras movie on Friday, and she's like, "No one wanted to play with me like a little kid," and I'm like, "I'm bawling. I've heard this song 1,800
Yeah,
times."
yeah.
I
And I told Carly, I said, no, saving it for it's in my bonus episode this week. Never mind.
got it. Tell me offline because
I'll
I
tell you
wanna know,
offline.
and
I'll
I'm
tell you offline.
impatient.
And you're my friend, so I can tell you.
Yeah, and I've gaslit you into being my friend. So, um, but no, like when I was going to therapy because I could afford it,
Mm,
my therapist would tell me she continuously used the word genuine with me, and I think it was
mm,
to rewrite the, like, internal dialogue that I have that, like, I'm lying to everyone, and she's
sure.
like, "No, Brennan Lee Mulligan wore your bracelets and said your name out loud. Hey, guys, did you know that Brennan Lee Mulligan said my name out loud?" And it was because you genuinely did a nice thing, and then you genuinely helped out the show just because you're smart and you noticed something and
Yeah.
you wanted the show to go well.
Yeah.
Like, I was
Yeah.
like, "I did do that. Fine."
Yeah, and I think that's it too. And I think the other part of it is that there needs to be an understanding that, you're not everyone's cup of tea. I know we say that, oh, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. But it's like, no, but if you find yourself in spaces where the person who sort of curated that space and you don't jive, but you've met people in that space who are good for you, that's okay too.
That's okay too. I do say a lot in private messages, where people could screen cap them and get me canceled, where I'm like, "Not everyone deserves friends, honestly."
I only screen cap when I'm appalled.
And not everyone deserves friends hasn't done it. You're like, "This bitch just flat out said it." Well, but sometimes and what I mean is not everyone deserves to be my friend, but also or
Yeah.
your friend or anyone's friend because not everyone deserves friends.
Well, and I think the other part of it too is because we've always been othered in some sort of way, you understand the coded language when someone's othering,
Mhm.
and that makes it really hard to be in that space.
Oh, yeah, I was talking today about an episode that will come out in February, so everyone will forget this spoiler. I was talking today about how it's an it's almost so frustrating to be out in public because now that feminism and anti-misogyny is trendy, which
Mhm.
has been trendy for a while. Like we turned it into a capitalistic game a while
Mhm.
ago, but I
Mhm.
feel like it had a resurgence thanks to the Women's March and pussy hats and all of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So once it became girl boss trendy,
Mhm.
then people's male partners jumped on to girl boss trendy and learned our language to fully gaslight us and trick
Yeah.
us into believing that they were allies, and I was like, "It's really hard when my friends believe that their boyfriends are doing all of the correct things, and then I'm like, 'No, he's lying. Oops.'" Like, "Oops, he's lying."
Yeah.
He doesn't actually feel that way. He's just repeating things you are saying.
Right. He just knows exactly what to say to get to that point. I think it's Raven Reveals who did, yep. There's a really great video on the Instagram creator Raven Reveals. She's a Black and Jewish educator. I found her through a guest on my show. Because anyway, it's not why, because doesn't matter. She posted a video this week about ally versus accomplice,
Accomplice.
and she really gets into how those two words are conflated all the time. And it's a really great explanation and breakdown of the two, and where, even if it's unintended,
Mhm.
someone might fall.
Yeah. Because language is nuanced, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Well, Jules, we're getting to the 5-minute mark. So
Oh, gotta
we've
wrap
already
up, I
talked about
guess.
how we don't have notes for the movie because I guess it was perfect.
I mean, 10 out of 10.
They didn't even have any like blatant 90s racism or
No.
homophobia.
No, I mean, it's really and truly, it holds up in such a way that I'm grateful because think about what we've watched in the last couple
Right.
weeks.
Because you know what movie I hate from the 90s that people like to tell me I'm wrong? And no, it's not Home
Armageddon.
Alone. We know that I hate Home
Oh,
Alone.
okay.
It's that fucking Dennis the Menace movie.
Oh, yeah,
My
that
grandma
was
used to,
stupid.
my other grandma used to like make me watch Dennis the Menace because it was a VHS that she owned all the fucking time. I
I
hated
hate that
Dennis the
movie.
Menace. I was surrounded by such nice and caring great uncles and great aunts and humans that were older than me because where my mom grew up is like a multi-generational like map
Yeah.
of our family.
Mhm.
And then I go, and then you want me to watch this fucking Dennis the Menace movie where this kid is annoying.
I mean,
And
it's peak white privilege.
yes.
White privilege, that's what
And
it
then
is.
that old man is screaming the entire time because he hates that he's 7. I don't know.
Mhm, mhm.
He's
It's
got
not
that
a
stupid lisp.
it's not a vibe I'm into. I can't
No,
hang.
I
Mm-mm.
hated that
I
movie,
hate
and
that
I hated
movie.
the Home Alone movie.
Yeah, well, we can agree to disagree on Home Alone, but I
What if I rewatched Home Alone because you made me for Still Comfy, and I'm like, "Oh my god, wait, Home Alone might be the funniest movie I've ever seen."
it's our
And I
it's
was
our
just like
holiday movie next year.
and I just had a bad attitude, like a 20-year bad attitude
Oh,
about Home Alone.
I mean, you
Oh,
were gonna make me watch Twilight. What if I
I
was just
was.
had a bad attitude this whole time about Twilight?
But
But also, I don't
instead
think I have.
but instead, I made you watch The Addams Family, which was perfect because it gave us clear examples of what relationships, whether family or
Mhm.
sexy, should be. And it
Yeah,
should be open, loving,
yeah.
accepting,
Yep.
blatant, just like, oh, hell yeah. I'm not saying that, like, if your cousin's being a dick, tell
Appreciation.
him he's being a dick.
Yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah,
like,
yeah. But, like, there's adoration, like, they adore each other, and it's not just, like, Gomez and Morticia, they adore each other in a romantic way, but then, like, Fester adores the children.
yes. Well, and no one screamed at Wednesday because she ran away into the cemetery and fell asleep somewhere. Like, no one did
Mhm.
the whole, like, we were worried about you. We can't believe you did this to us.
Yeah.
They were just like, oh, thank God we found Wednesday
Yeah.
on our property, which is a huge amount of property,
Right.
sleeping in a statue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love. 10 out of
Well,
10. Still
10 out of
comfy.
good job, Addams Family. Um, I don't even think I was worried about this one because I was like, nah, Gomez and Morticia still fuck. They let Wednesday be smart.
Mhm.
Um, I know she has a bad reputation because she like tortures Pugsley or whatever, but he is actively like that's how they play. I don't know. It's the
He
Addams
doesn't
Family.
mind
He
it.
doesn't mind it. He's having a fun time.
Yeah,
that's
it's so interesting. It's
that's
like,
on him.
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, everybody. Well, next week we'll be on Jules's channel. Jules, do your plugs. I was like,
Hey,
what can we do to end the show? Like,
yeah.
should I just hit end?
No, 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 no. Hey, friends. Julia Washington with Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, where we analyze pop culture through the lens of race or gender and sometimes both. This week, we are getting into the David Beckham docu-series, the 4-part docu-series that Netflix released 2 weeks ago. My guest is Movies with Mr. Mario. Spoiler alert, loved it. I also host Jelly Pop's Book Club, where we read book to screen adaptations and compare them to their screen counterparts. This week, we are talking about Every Summer After, which is not an adaptation, but we talk about why it would make a good adaptation, and we talk about what actors and actresses we'd like to see in that film. It is a very interesting conversation. I think that's it. I think that's all I have for this week for my show, and it's gonna be great. Listen to my shit. Support my work. Join me on Patreon for free.
For free.
Patreon.com/Julia Washington.
Because we don't expect women to work for money.
Well, guess what? I went to go link something that I had worked on and I had published a while ago,
And it was gone.
and it was gone.
So
Sometimes websites get shut down and your work just, so I have to go find my submission packet so I can pull it and just dump it on Patreon so it's there forever, because
forever.
websites
Until Patreon
sometimes
gets shut down.
Jesus Christ.
All right.
I
Well,
can't hang.
this week on To All the Men I've Tolerated Before, did I tell you not to listen to Jules can listen to this week's episode because it's the same stuff. So it's about Final Girls, the strongest women in horror and possibly the globe.
You said there was one that's coming that's probably going to be too hard
It's the
for me.
Patreon episode where we tell our ghost stories.
Yeah,
I told you
that's
to
it.
not listen to.
That's it. Yeah.
But anyways, we're talking about it's me, Elizabeth Kyle from our 90s codependent episode and 90s heartthrob episode and our religion episode. And honestly, she's just a good fucking time. And Darcy Darko from our 2 wrestling episodes. They're my spooky bitches. We talk about all of our favorite Final Girls and how when you are a woman watching a Final Girl in scary movies, you get to know that you too get to claw and fight and scream your way out of bad situations, and you don't have to be polite about it. So it's a really great episode. I had a lot of fun doing it. If you join the Patreon episode this week is Elizabeth and I telling ghost stories. And it has very big sleepover vibes because that recording was fucking 3 hours long because we went into sleepover mode where we're like, hi, are we friends? We never talk.
Wait, is it released? Did you really release a 3-hour episode?
No, I said the audio was 3 hours and I cut it.
I thought you told me you cut it, but I was
Remember
like,
how exhausted I was after that day of editing?
This is why I'm always like, I'm cap shit at an hour for recording. If I'm done within 45 minutes, even better, because I don't have someone to send this off to edit. It's my time.
Anyway, if you join the Patreon free trial, you can just have that Ghost Stories episode for free, or you can join one of our mini tiers. We have Halloween merch. We have a newsletter that gets you a discount code to the Halloween merch. And we have a blog where I write a thank you letter to the Final Girls and what they taught me about being strong and loud and messy.
And messy.
All right. Well, everybody.
Wait, you didn't like formally say you were still comfy. I'm just assuming.
Oh, yeah. I'm still. Oh, yeah. I said we had no notes.
Yeah.
We have no notes. Would watch the Addams Family every day. Am going to get off this call and text one of my cousins. Did you know that we're the Addams Family? Anyways.
Yes.
Everyone.
Stay cozy.
No, I have to drag it out.
Oh, you closed it. I'm sorry.
Prayers up for Brittany at noon. Eastern. Have a happy Halloween. Armageddon is chock full of 90s racism and homophobia.
Next week we are doing Mrs. Doubtfire on my channel. Natalie's gonna die.
Oh yeah, this will be the first time that I have watched a Robin Williams movie, even Aladdin, where it's a cartoon, since Robin Williams has passed.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I do a before video and an after video like people did for the Eras tour. This was me walking into the Eras tour. This was me walking out of the Eras tour. Maybe I do that for watching Mrs. Doubtfire. But most importantly, stay cozy, stay comfy. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Keep waving, Jules, because the mouse isn't on.
Keep waving.
Like Green Acres is the place